Hey guys, this is Game Galaxy Zone, and welcome to today's little episode of just being as curious as you are as I am. And that being is Pokemon Z actually confirmed? Now, over this past week, we just got a Pokemon Direct on Friday, February 26th, where they announced the new generations of Pokemon games, Gen 7's Pokemon Sun and Pokemon Moon version. But we were surprised not to see Pokemon Z version. And this kind of made a huge uproar for a lot of people because there has been so much facts and information regarding the fact that Z was pretty much confirmed, but it never did. Or did it? I actually am going to talk a little bit about some information today that could possibly prove that Pokemon Z is happening in Gen 7. To do this, we're actually going to look back at some old games, including the original games as well. First, let's go back to how Z could have possibly happened. And to do this, we're going to look at X and Y. X and Y had a lot of interesting storyline that was kind of left out, along with some Pokemon and other information that could have eventually led up to Z, including the fact that we got new forms of Zygarde and a new mythical Pokemon out there as well. This could have made a huge possibility that Pokemon Z was pretty much 95% confirmed, but it wasn't. Getting into details of how this actually happened, and how these connections could possibly connect to Pokemon Sun and Moon, let's take a look at some things that revolve around X and Y having similarities to the original games, Red and Green, but also Red and Blue. So let's talk about this first. X and Y. The first similarity between X and Y and Red and Blue, as I'm going to stick to more of the English releases as of right now, I'll get into Pokemon Japanese release Red and Green here in a few minutes. But let's take a look at the originals. So first thing we notice is that the titles are the exact same color for all three games. X being blue, Y being red, and green being Z. Kind of interesting when you think about it. But maybe you're probably not entirely confirmed with the fact that, okay, colors, they're same games. What does that have to do with anything? Well, X and Y actually had a lot of similarities to the Kanto region in general, being the Pokemon you encountered there, like the three legendary birds and Mewtwo, which was kind of interesting, including lots of other random Pokemon that you found in the area were mostly from Kanto. And what's even more interesting is the maps and areas of the region itself. I mean, to me, if you flip Kalos upside down, it looks like Kanto. Kind of odd, isn't it? So, okay, so there's some connections between X and Y and the similarities of red and blue and green. But what does that have to really do with anything? Well, let's take a look at this. X and Y being right there leading up to Z version, but that didn't happen. Instead, Gen 7 was released, or introduced into the game series, as Sun and Moon. Well, if we go back in time to Red, Blue, and Green, we see that the next generation of games were Gold and Silver. So, just as though we made similarities to X and Y, being red and blue, let's take a look at how Sun and Moon could actually be related to Gold and Silver. The only thing that we've seen of Sun and Moon were a few picture arts that were introduced in the trailer. But, if you notice, Sun and Moon actually have a lot of similarities to the legendary Pokemon of Gold and Silver, Ho-Oh and Lugia. And if you think about it, here's how they actually connect. The sun being Ho-Oh. Ho-Oh is a phoenix bird that has the ability to create rainbows and other majestical sights. Well, what else can create rainbows is clouds, rain, and the sun. Also, a phoenix bird relates to a firebird. Fire star? Sun? Some relationships to that. Looking over on the moon side, this is actually a bit more matched than Ho-Oh, because the moon is basically directly related to Lugia. Lugia is the guardian of the oceans, more or less. It has control over currents and tides and many other things that are located deep underwater. What also has control over our tides? The moon. The moon has the ability to more or less create our tides and a lot of deep sea ocean currents as well. Kind of interesting, isn't it? That Gen 2 is actually kind of related to Gen 7's Pokemon Sun and Moon. But that could just be similarities to myself and just a theory in general. I mean, what does that have to really do with anything? Well, what made Gen 2 so unique? Gen 2 is the only game in existence to include two regions. Gen 2 Gold and Silver included Johto and the Kanto region. Maybe you're picking up what I'm getting on now. Sun and Moon, here it is, has two regions. Sun and Moon has its Gen 7 region and its Z counterpart region, Kalos. How interesting would that be? That Sun and Moon could potentially hold two regions in the game. Well, what real proof do I have about that? Well, I did just made some connections to the original games and how they kind of connected to two regions and how these games kind of connect. If we think about it, I don't feel like Game Freak should just completely ignore Z version. They hyped it up so much for there to be a Z version. So why would they just stop and not even announce anything for it? I feel as though they're definitely hiding something, and this is the main reason of what they're doing. I really hope that Gen 7's Pokemon Sun and Pokemon Moon's version will actually include two regions. This would give people a lot of interest because not only would it have your Gen 7 region, but you would get to return to Kalos, an entirely open, new kind of region that you've already been to, but with the storyline of Z that we've all wanted. I mean, this would be incredible, and it would really make for a great plot twist that we weren't expecting for. But who knows? As things go right now, this is definitely a huge thing on our minds. I really hope this theory comes true, and I hope some people actually look into it, because it would be awesome. That's all I have for today, so keep in mind that I might actually try to work on some theories more later. That's my main theory for today. Thanks for watching, and if you liked it, drop some comments down below and maybe express some of your own feelings to how this could be true, or false. I'd love to know that too. So thanks for watching, and let's go Pokemon game Gen 7.